Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. In this one, just for fun, we are going to house rule RuneScape Kingdoms, the RPG. And what that means is I want to basically take the existing rules and kind of reconfigure them so that we can use this for a genre neutral or a theme neutral setting. So we are going to kind of push aside the RuneScape lore and keep the mechanics existing for a future one-shot or campaign because I am very intrigued by the mechanics, the simplicity of this rules light system, but RuneScape is well developed and an integral part of this game. So let's try to kind of separate that part of the pie. So let's go to the character creation portion, which is page 58. So we're skipping most of the world building elements here. And just to mention, this video will not be a tutorial or a how-to for the RPG itself, but just a workshop video, a Lex Hack video for this game specifically. So we have the attributes and skills, which I definitely want to keep those. That's vital. The mechanic of 3d6 we're definitely want to keep too, but the first thing I want to change is I might remove Catalyst. I will not include Catalyst and Motivation. Or let's see. Let's first do the attributes. So I'm going to call this the Rune Hack, just for now. And what we're looking at now is the three main attributes. You have Strength, Agility, and Intellect. So that will remain the same. We have Strength. Let's see, Agility and Intellect. So I'll put Int. And it says you have 8 points to distribute between your attributes. You must have a minimum of one in every attribute. You may assign the rest of the points as you see fit. So 8 points to distro, minimum of one is decent. Here is a small issue I have with the game. Have not thoroughly played it, so perhaps I'm missing something or misreading this, but all these skills here have a default of 1. It's a 3d6 game. You choose a background and you can basically increase some of these skills per the background. One of these attributes could literally be 1. So because of the method for testing your skills, doing a skill test, you would add the attribute that aligns with the skill. So strength with, I think there is Slayer here, or agility with ranged. That would be just 2 if I had 1 in ranged and 1 in agility, or attack and strength 1 1. That's 2. How do you get a 2 with 3d6? I believe there is a method that if you have three of the same, for example, 3 1s, perhaps that's a perfect. 3 6s would be a failure. Maybe that's one way to get it. But I was thinking of perhaps increasing the minimum to 2. That way, you're always a guarantee to have at least the shot of 3 for any skill that has a point of 1. But the other reason potentially for this is that you wouldn't have knowledge with a lot of these from the start. So even if you have 1 point in one of these attributes, for example, you don't know much about magic and you only have 1. You can't do magic at all until you improve it. That is one other way I can see of using it. So let's leave it at one for now. I'm kind of on the fence about that, but otherwise, 8 points is fairly courteous, I think. And then we have all the skills. So the skills is, I believe, based off the game. We have all these skills here. However, if I want to make this a system neutral game where it can be used in other worlds, other settings, for example, space, cyberpunk, modern, fantasy, etc., there are some skills we will have to take away or change. Archaeology, attack, cooking, crafting, defense, dungeoneering, farming, fishing, fletching, help, a herbler, hunter. These first, the first half here is acceptable. All of these can be used for the most part. Dungeoneering, maybe in space if you're going through an asteroid or something you're mining through it. Dungeoneering might be possible. Exploring dark underground places. Again, these are all very broad, so you can kind of use them um, to a great extent. But then there are few in on this side here that do pose some questionable results if you are to use them outside of fantasy, or at least in the RuneScape lore. We have magic, which is fine, mining, then there's prayer. That's the first one. Ranged, rune crafting, that's the second one. Slayer, smithing, summoning is the third one. So those three, prayer, rune crafting, summoning, are generally vague enough, broad enough, but I think they are the most lore-based skills for the RuneScape world. So, prayer, it says, how skilled are you in invoking the aid of the gods? How much do you know of the religions of Gielinor? How easily can you converse with cleric or priest? Prayer is debatably um, one that we could slip in or keep. Perhaps we can change it to religion, prayer, religion. I mean, that's obviously doable, but I think rune crafting, how good are you creating ruins? If the world setting that I will be playing in does not have runes, rune crafting is completely off the table. We could remove it. Then there is summoning, how good at calling up magical creatures, how sound do you grasp the theory behind summoning is, how strong is the beings you can summon. Summoning is, again, not it's obviously something you would find in other RPGs with that have magic and creatures and spirits. But if I were to again use my method of the Karen magic spells, the spell books, summoning would probably not really be required. But I do like the even amount of skills at 20 if we were to remove runecrafting and change summoning to something else. So, what could we change summoning to? Everything else is the same, except for removing room crafting and changing, adapting summoning to something else. We already have a skill called magic, which covers a very broad category of magic, of magic use. Summoning magical creatures. What of animal handling? We have fishing, but what about animal handling? So, here's what we're going to do. Skills, we will remove room crafting. And then summoning, we will transition to animal handling. Animal handling, I I recall correctly, is also in D&D 5e, and it's a very another broad skill that could stretch across multiple world settings. We do have farming, but again, that's probably more so, like it says, for growing crops, accurate for assess weather conditions, how well you tend and rear animals. Again, that's more for farm animals. I think animal handling is for the wild creatures like the horses and such. So those two could have some vague connection, but I think summoning for now, animal handling is just the one I think off the top of my head. So this puts us at 20 skills even. Okay. Now, one thing here for skills, it says skills have a minimum of one each, so that's obviously vital. So skills have 1 point minimum. Do I want to keep the backgrounds? Backgrounds give you that preset amount of points, ranks as they're called here, per the background. A lot of these are good. There's obviously going to be some here that are bound to RuneScape, but a lot of these are fairly generic enough to be used in different fantasy lore. Now, there is one way to assign points. We'll get to that in a second. We're still going about skills. So each skill has a minimum of 1, a maximum score of 10. Max of 10, I think, is also fair. And these are basically per skill. So we can keep, I'll put a little question mark here, keep backgrounds, or we can lose all the backgrounds and we can go to a distribution system, an optional feature, the optional feature, and make it the main method of distributing points. This gives more customization, more freedom for the player to craft their own character. So it says here, if you want to build your character without restrictions of the background, you can do that. We included backgrounds as a way of a character giving your character a place in Gielinor, and a past for you to draw on when beginning your adventures. But if you want to choose yourself, you can. Use the following rules and create your character as you choose. You have 31 skill points to assign as you choose. You must have a minimum one, which is the same from before. 10. You then have the 10 additional points to assign as you choose. Okay, so 31. There's 20 skills now in my rendition. That's 31 to start here on the original rules, and then it says you have a 10 additional points to assign as you choose. I'm going to say 40 points to distribute. So you have 40 skill points to distro. I'll put a little star there because that's an important feature, and so is this one. Those stars will be for the huge, um, not necessarily modifications, but important mechanic. Important mechanics. So same with this one here. Skills where we removed rune crafting and chain summoning for now to animal handling. I might find something else, maybe awareness or perception, but we can keep it as it is for now. So backgrounds we're gonna skip for now. Keep moving along, moseying along here. And then the final steps, like I said, it's already in there. Let's go back to the skills. I want to check something really quick. So, okay, just double checking to see Slayer. Okay, so I saw Slayer here earlier. I was confused for a second. This is how good you're killing those dangerous creatures, how accurately you can identify the spore of deadly beast, how widely known you are for your skills as a Slayer. This and attack can go hand in hand, but for now I'm going to keep it as it is. Slayer, it looks like it's more of a reputational assist. All right, now we're getting to the life points size. Size, I'm going to remove. So remove, there's another star here, size. Don't need to worry about that, and I have a reason for it. Life points. Life points are important. How life points are equal to all your points, pretty much. So your life points are always equal to the sum of your attributes plus skill points. That's fine. That's quite a bit. It says you should average around 37 equals, so attributes plus skills. So that's the math to that, which is fine. Equipment. I'm not going to worry about this precise slot layout, so we will remove that. It's just you're equipping up to two weapons. I'm going to say I do really like the method of Karen where you have a maximum of 10 items, so we can probably bring that in. Max of 10 items or strength plus strength. We can put that in there. Some games do that, and we'll do that here. So that's how many items you can carry. Max of 10 items plus strength. So let's see what else we got here. There are these there are the ones you can choose from. Starter basically starter kits. Melee, ranged, magic, skiller. So that's four. I think that's fine. I mean, with melee combat, you have a sword, helm, shield, plate body, short bow, 20 arrows, dagger, chaps, and a let's see, staff, magic, a lot of runestones, which we're going to get rid of. So basically, I wouldn't use any of these for the packages. I think for choosing items, let's do this. You can choose, so starting items, two entry weapons, armor, with armors depending. We can do a, let's see, rations as usual, and a light source, and some tools. And that's the character. So then we have the usual details like the name, background if we need to, etc. But there you go. So now we get to this was the character creation. Almost forgot to mention that character creation. Then we get to the mechanics of the game. So we have the mechanics. We have the test. Test is again fairly straightforward. You have to take the attribute that's associated with the skill and add those together to get your target number. You then roll 3d6. If the total is equal to or lower than, it is a success. If it exceeds, it's a failure. That's it. That is the entire game in a nutshell. So you have the skill, you have the attribute, the ATT plus the skill equals the target number, 3d6 at or below, as I like to call it. It is a success. Above equals a failure, a fail. So there is the rolling a triple, which I was vaguely mentioning earlier in the video. If a player is exceptionally fortunate or unfortunate and rolls a triple, something remarkable happens. If the character is successful in the test they are making and rolls a triple, they succeed with a plume. So if you're talking enemy succeed a roll a triple, you double the total damage inflicted to the enemy for your soak. If you're attempting a skill test to gain resource, succeed, roll a triple, you gain the double resources you would have gained. So if you fail the test and roll a triple, you not only fail, but something bad happens. So we'll keep that. That's basically critical fail or critical success. So let's see, roll triples, but that doesn't actually aid the issue from earlier where you would trying to roll an attribute and skill that has a total of two and it's a 3d6 game. That was still my concern from earlier. As I see it, it doesn't want you to use a skill that you can't use yet. So at or below the target number is a critical, a crit. And then triple, so same thing for triples would be above target number is a fumble. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I like it. That's obviously a 3 or a 18. Says you can combined attributes and skills. This is something I didn't really look into that much, but let's try it. So, while most actions would seem to have a clear combination attribute and skill, others are less clear. It is the GM's discretion which attribute and skill a character can use, but characters can suggest their preferred combination and explain why they believe such a combination is appropriate. For instance, while picking a lock might usually be a combination of agility plus theming, your GM might allow a character to use intellect plus thieving instead, representing the character's understanding of how locks are constructed rather than naturally dexterous use of tools. So that could be another sidestep to an initial attribute with one and skill plus one when you can use a higher attribute in line with a skill that still has a plus one skill point, rank of one, with an attribute that has a two or higher. That's one way around the one to one issue we've been having, or I've been noticing so far. Again, because I'm new to this game, I could be missing something, but I feel like I feel like I'm reading that right. So combining attributes and skills, basically, I will keep that in there. Skills can be used more figuratively in creative manner on occasion. For example, there's no swimming skill, but if a character is able to swim extremely quickly to catch up with a rowing boat, the character might use strength attribute plus attack skill. That makes sense. So a lot of these skills and attributes can be intertwined, can be redirected. It's like redirecting traffic, basically. So let's see. Well, this is basically one whole section here. I'll keep that there. Uh, let's start here. Combining, we have the at plus skills. Or I should say rerouting with an arrow like that. Okay, assisting. Oops, not gonna worry about that for now. Crafting, again, this is something that's more in line with the lore of RuneCraft. Sorry, RuneScape. That's great. RuneScape. Social interactions. I don't want to copy every single thing down, but the one thing that's important here is combat. Now, for me, I was going to make combat narrative, but all the dice rolling does happen from the player's side of the table. So 2 stars here, combat is going to be narrative. You're going to, if I were to play once I would play the solo, I'm going to explain what's happening, what I want the player character to do, what I hope they can achieve. I'm going to roll the dice. The target number will be modified based on the difficulty of the enemy. I'll roll for attack and I'll roll for defense. So if my attack lands, it hits. If my defense fails, I get hit. That's how I see it. So we have all these typical moves. I'm gonna, that's basically embedded into my mind at this point. But there's one part I want to write down, and that is attack defend, because it has its own little system in here. There's size. So sizes, I'm going to remove, or a change, I should say, Sizes will now be difficulty number instead. So, like combining the attack and defend modifiers into one, not worried about size at this point. Size does make sense, if you're a colossal character, you easier hit, but you can cause more damage. Vice versa, if you're small, you're harder to hit, but um, you deal less damage. So, or they deal less damage, but you're harder to hit. Like I says, tiny here if it's an imp, goblin, etc. If you're a dragon, you're easier to hit, but you are obviously deal more damage. That stuff does make sense, but to make it slightly simpler, it's simple already, but just to keep, for solo play, there's less to worry about, and then it'd be less errors. Difficulty number will be essentially the level of the enemy. If it is a dragon, it will be a plus, I should say a -4. So a -2 or 4 on my attack and defense. So it'll be harder to attack the dragon because that also accounts for their narrative-based armor that they might have based on how tough their dragon scales are. And also the same number would apply to my defense. It would be hard for me to defend against a beast of a dragon, but if my character is stronger down the road, that modifier stays the same because I would then have a higher skill in attack and defend. That's what I mean. So if it's an easier character to kill, an enemy to kill, for example, Imp Goblin, I'll put +2 or +4. So let's think of the difficulties here. We have +4 for the very easy, +2 for the easy, no modifier for normal, -2 for difficult, -4 for very difficult, or I should say hard, and then -6 for boss, essentially. This number will represent multiple things. Of course, I will have the enemies. The enemies will have health on the side behind the scenes, but these modifiers will affect the target number, not the roll, the target number for both attack and defend and any other skill that I want to use against uh, the hypothetical enemy. That's how I see it. So I'm taking away all these two separate modifiers for attack and defend and combining them. Ranges, I'm narrative, so if I do the episode in on a grid, there will obviously be some consideration, but I'm never really a stickler about that. There's obviously optional rules here, which I don't really need to worry about. Damage, I'm not going to worry about it. When it comes to damage, it's just whatever the dice roll is. But then we have to talk about the damage because based on the weapon. So there's death. Now we have to stay on damage here because a lot of the weapons in the game, if I do use the weapons, if I don't, if I use Karen, for example, or a different game's weapon library, or if I even make my own, which I'm thinking about making my own, um, what this will do, and here's what I was thinking. So the weapon, whether it's, a melee, martial, or a ranged weapon, I guess martial does encompass that, so melee or ranged, the weapons will be your traditional dice roll. They will have, because in this game there is base damage. And the difference between the roll and a target number, if you succeed, so below the target number, the distance activates special ability plus the damage, an additional damage on the count of the difference. So, but for me, I prefer weapon die, a weapon die based on damage roll. So whatever I roll, if it's equal to or less than, it's a hit. But then there is the secondary die, and I'm used to the rolling for damage. So weapons roll for damage. So a weapon die. So if I roll for attack and it hits, no matter, whatever the difficulty of the difficulty level of the enemy, and I hit, then I roll my weapon die. If they hit me, I will roll the enemy's weapon die against myself, against my player character. So I should say here, enemies also have weapon dies, or I should say attack die. I'm not really, when I try to play solo RPGs, I don't really worry about what the enemy has equipped. I just give them a die, an attack die, which I will roll. So for enemies, they have the attack die. I'm more focused on the player character. This does add an extra mechanic to the original game because you never actually roll for enemies. The difference, if you're rolling for defense, I think if you roll over and fail, it is the full damage of their attack plus a special. But if you roll under, there is the difference. So defending, I gotta double check my knowledge base here. So when defending against attack, you do exactly the same, but only this time you'll be attempting to dodge or block your enemy's blow. You're combining the attribute and defense skill to give your target number, depending on how you're attempting to do this. For example, you might try to swift and evade a goblin sword aimed at your guts in case you wish to combine agility and defense. Alternately, you might try tricking your enemy into wearing themselves out by letting them slash away at you as you remain immovable. In that case, you might combine strength and defense. You roll 3d6. If your total 3d6 is equal to or lower than your target number, you succeeded. Your armor reduces, so is the damage received from your opponent's attack and its defense value. It reduces the damage equal to the amount rolled under. So even if you do roll a success, this game can still deal damage. So it is like Karen. If I'm reading this right, you always will take some amount of damage because of the exceptional amount of health you have compared to other games. That method is actually very intriguing. So here I wrote enemies have a weapon die, which I'm totally fine with doing. But I think after recording, I will decide on the fate of these two options here. I do like that you can still take damage. That does take away one mechanic. So, D&D, you roll at your AC, you roll the AC or above, and it's a hit. There'll be times you just rolling under ACs and you keep missing, missing, missing. But for this one, there is always going to be damage. That is kind of like an MMO. You will always deal damage, take damage, but you have the armor to negate some of the damage. So that's basically what it's saying here. If you fail the test, you take full damage from the enemy's attack and any special effects in its place. So I'm going to put a question mark here and use original defending rule question mark. So I think that will be something I will consider after recording. I don't want to waste time just sitting here and be like, ah, well, let's just, I don't know, let me think about it. But dealing damage is the same way, but from your perspective as the player character. So attacking, it's kind of off to the side here, but when you attack, you determine the target number, either strength or agility. As with all tests, roll 36 compared to target number. If you roll equal to your target number, you succeed and deal your weapon's base damage. If you roll under your target number, you're able to deliver a weapon special ability if it has one. And if you roll under more than one, you deal your special ability additional damage. I also like that too. So I apologize. I'm very back and forth, but this is a workshop video. I wasn't playing like this isn't scripted as usual. I do like that too. Tell you what, because the health points is so high based on your total amount of attribute and skill points, I could use the weapons from this game and equipment, but not the runes, magic, etc. I could always just use the spell books from Karen. So I'm going to erase that, but I will keep the mod for the difficulty level. I will definitely keep that. So I'm going to put a mod here, keep attack and defend method. It's simple. You roll at its base damage, you roll below. The difference is the additional damage. Special abilities, I might consider. Let's put a question mark there. Special abilities, that is a question mark. I think that's fair. Special abilities is a question mark. So, anything else? Range, we are covered, damage. Then there's death. Death is I just rather just have the character die off if we run out of HP, especially with all that HP. Though the HP can be depleted pretty fast. So we have Einstein Ghoul over here, and they have these options for when you die. But because it's not an MMO, when you die, your character dies. So a character reaches 0 HP, dead. That's it. Game over. That's how I would prefer it. And I think that's really it. Again, when I play this in a future video, actual solo play, which has been a while since I've done a solo play episode. Yeah, I'm definitely not using the magic prayer summoning. So this hack, I hope it makes sense to you guys. Will I use the hack? Potentially. I like to. I'm going to put this in my Google Docs. I will finesse it. I will make it seem like it's my own little one-page RPG hack for RuneScape Kingdoms. But at the same time, RuneScape Kingdoms is a fairly simple game. I just It's just my lack of knowledge that keeps me from playing it completely within the confines of its own world. Should I learn about the world? Perhaps. At the same time, I like playing system neutral games, or I should say, setting neutral. So just to kind of recap here, we have Rune Hack, which will most likely change the names. We kept the three attributes. 8 points of distro is fine. Minimal is 1. It's fine. The skills removed rune crafting. We adapted summoning for now to animal handling. Change that. 20 we're at 20 skills now. Skills will have 1 point minimum. That's fine. Max of 10. That's also good. Keep background. I will most likely remove that or keep. We'll see. 40 skill points to distro. If I don't keep backgrounds, I remove the size. Life points still remain the same. Max 10 items plus strength based on slight, a little slight nod to Karen there. And other RPGs to have strength as a modifier. Choose starting items, so 2 entry weapons, armors, rations, light source. We can always just choose weapons freely without, and then name, etc. And I definitely will not be using the character sheet from this game because of the color background that makes it hard to print. Even though there's a print friendly version, it still has the icons in the boxes. So let me put this down here. Um, Either make new character sheets. I'll just do that. Make new character sheets. So I will do that in my Google Excel or whatever it's called, Google Sheets. So for mechanics, we have the test, which is the attribute plus skill, target number. 3d6, all the same, at or below. Triples, at or below. It's a critical, fumble above. Combining the skills that can always be rerouting, as I call it. Combat is narrative. You have the size difference, which will now be the difficulty number. I'll keep the attack defend method because that kind of grew on me while making this video. Once I was telling myself I'm going to do the weapon die, and I'm like, actually, you know what? I can always just use the weapons from the book and go from there. Special abilities questionable. HP reaches 0. Your character's dead. So that is it for this video. As usual, it was all over the place, but I did enjoy going through this book. a little more thoroughly and kind of hacking it off the top. So, not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but I love looking at the game, these books, and kind of trying to change the rules around and experiment on my channel. So, uh, people out there might prefer just to play the game and not try to, again, reinvent the wheel. But for me, it's a mixture of both. There are some games I like to play, especially if they're simple rule light games like Karen. Uh, but then there's times I will try to take these bigger books that have either rules light with some mechanics and adapt them to my own little adjustment. I've done a hack for Karen, but advancing it with the character advancement system. So I did have a hack like that some time ago in my prior solo campaigns. And FYI, there is no sponsorship here. I just love the game, Kieran. FYI, so I'll mention that. But again, and no sponsorship here on RuneScape. I have no sponsorships whatsoever on that channel. I am completely independent on my own for making these videos in my own time. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.